Yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da. Yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yalla da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da. Yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da. Shabbat shalom and welcome, and thank you for that enthusiastic greeting to my cat Trixie. We are here on Zoom for our first Friday of the month. What is our Kabbalat Shabbat? The evening service where we are blessed to be led by our song leaders. Given the rise in numbers and until things are a little more safe and the vaccine is better distributed and we can all gather safely again, we are trying out doing our Kabbalat Shabbat on Zoom and really handing the reins over to our song leaders. So we are so excited tonight to be led by them in worship, in prayer, and in song. And with that, I hand it over to our wonderful, wonderful song leaders. Shabbat Shalom, and sing with us from your homes, please.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth, a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash.
Yalalai l'chadodi, yalalai l'kadkala, yalalai b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diborechai, Ishmianu el hamyuchai, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, v'shemu tiferet, v'nidhilah. Yalalai, yalalai l'chadodi, yalalai l'kadkala, yalalai b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Hitoreri, favore come ore uri shinaberi che vorranno alaich nikra ya la la lechadoni ya la la likrat kala ya la b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Please rise if you're able. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha u'tohola toch emuneh am segula boi chala yalalai lechadoni yalalai likrat kala yalalai b'nei Shabbat nikabela.
Hashkifeinu Adonai, Eloheinu Shalom, Eloheinu Shomreinu L'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkifeinu Adonai, Eloheinu Shalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name, shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkifeinu Adonai, Eloheinu Shalom, V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim.
Erev Tov, good evening, Shabbat Shalom. It is a joy that we get to make Shabbat together, make Shabbat with our song leaders this evening, with our teens coming to us from parts near and far, and also members of our youth group board coming to us from near and far, so that we, all of us, can make Shabbat, can be with one another. We're going to turn now in our prayer books, and now would be a good time to turn to our prayer books if you haven't already. Maybe it's the flip book of Mishkan Tefillah, maybe you have the Kindle edition, maybe you sprung for the paper copy. But for us to now find ourselves on page 2, as we prepare to light our Shabbat candles, as we prepare to welcome the light of Shabbat into our lives. Our cantor is going to lead us in the candle blessing. But if you haven't lit your Shabbat candles yet, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're here on Zoom with us, wherever you are, I would encourage you to go ahead and prepare your Shabbat candles, prepare to welcome the warmth of Shabbat, the warmth of being together into your life as we turn to our cantor to lead us in the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Amen. Physically, spiritually, we rise for the Baruch Hu. You can find the words for that on page 28 in your prayer books.
Praise Adonai, do more praises to. Praise Adonai, do more praises to. Praise Adonai, do more praises to. Now and forever.
One of the things that makes this type of Kabbalat Shabbat different, since we're not in the sanctuary, is that each of our song leaders are leading by themselves. You hear their voice instead of hearing all of their voices together, which means it is as important, if not more important, for all of us to be lifting our voices up together, for all of us to be letting their voice lead us forward, but making sure that our voice is heard in our homes and is heard in our own ears, that our prayer rises up. We offer a prayer in this moment for the one who creates all, and creates all with love, and creates Shabbat with love, gives us the opportunity to remind ourselves of the love that we should have for all of God's creation. And so we turn to page 32 as we join in Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אתה, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. אהבת עולם, אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אתה, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. Day and night, show us the way, teaching us to number our days, when we rise and when we lie down. Ahavat olam, אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אתה, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת.
As we prepare to say the Shema, I want all of us in this moment to just close our eyes just for a moment. And in this moment, I want us to take a deep breath. And as we take this deep breath in, I want you to think about everything that's happened this past week. The snow at the beginning of the week, all of our interactions this week, all of our encounters, good, bad, and otherwise. Just breathe it all in. Hold it for a moment. And then breathe it all out. Let the week go. Let everything go. Let everything we experience this week go. So that we can be together in Shabbat. Let's join in the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
We can be seated and let's join together with our cantor in chanting the Ve'ahavta.
This can be found on page 36 if you are following along. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'eleh asher anochi metzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
So we turn to page 40. And we prepare to hear that song at the sea, that freedom song, that redemption song that we are still singing as a people.
O mi chamocha Bailim Adonai Omi Kamocha Kodesh Onora Tehila O Seifele Onora Tehila O Seifele. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? Is all I ever had. Redemption songs, these songs of freedom.
And we turn to page 44 for Vishamra.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael. Et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat לדורותם ברית העולם ושמרו. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל. ושמרו בני ישראל. את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם ושמרו. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל. ושמרו בני ישראל. את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם ושמרו. וביום השביעי שבת, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל. ושמרו בני ישראל. את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית העולם ושמרו.
We haven't had a member of Besti lead us in a reading in a bit, but with the theme this week being Parashat Yitro and the Ten Commandments, one of the times we read the Ten Commandments, we have Elena Cole, who's one of our newest board members, our 8th grade rep, to lead us in a reading. So Elena, if you would unmute yourself and share.
In the fifth commandment, it tells the Jewish people to honor the mother and father. The prayer Amidah is also about the same topic and tells us to honor and respect our parents. I think following this commandment is important because our parents are the ones who have taken care of us our entire lives, and we should give back to them by honoring them.
And I'm sure all the parents who are participating in the service right now are taking notes. So we'll rise physically, spiritually for the Amidah, Adonai Sfatayim 46, Avot Imahot on 48, and then following.
Adonai tzifatei tiftach ufiyah ki tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei B'nei Ham, Leman Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Hozer U'Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem, Mechakel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Kivurot, Umida Melach, Melech Meimit Umechayeh, Umatmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, Ukdoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We may be seated. We can turn in our prayer books to page 253. To page 253. We take time in our service at this time to think of those who are in need of healing, the healing of body, healing of spirit. We think of those affected by COVID-19, the number continuing to climb. We think of those in our own lives who are in need of healing. And Susan Detweiler has just shared the name Kate Ransom and Catherine Jacobson. And I would ask if you have a name to share either in the chat function on Zoom, if you're on Zoom, or on YouTube, in the comments below, lift up the name of someone you are thinking of, someone who's in need of healing. We think of Cheryl Hampson, we think of Gail Dallas, we think of so many. We lift their names up to ourselves, to each other, to create a community of healing, and together we pray for healing. transition now to our Seder Kriyat HaTorah. So we'll have a little Seder Kriyat HaTorah transitioning music as we join in Al Shalosha.
Al Slosha Devarim, Al Slosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed, Al Slosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed, Al HaTorah Ve'al HaAvodah Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim, Al HaTorah Ve'al HaAvodah Ve'al Gemilut Chasadim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim Ha'olam Omed, Al Shlosha Devarim.
So we prepare to read from Torah, but before we do, it is the first Friday of the month, and this is when we usually acknowledge and celebrate people's birthdays, the birthdays for the month of February, including, by the way, Rabbi Grumbacher, whose birthday was just a few days ago. So happy birthday to him. If you have a February birthday and you want to say something on YouTube or in the chat here on Zoom so we can acknowledge your birthday, wish you the Me'av Asrim, may you live to be 120. We would love to be able to do that and wish you all happy birthday. Hopefully you are not born on the 29th of February. That is how you end up in a lifetime of piracy. But I digress. That is for a different time. Happy birthday, Dylan, who's leading us this evening. Happy birthday, Owen Werkheiser, whose birthday is this month, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. In fact, in like 2 days, I think, if my memory serves, which sometimes it doesn't. For all those who are celebrating February birthdays, we join in celebrating you and we join in singing Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
Happy birthday to all of you. What happened to say your name out loud? Happy birthday, Marcy. Happy birthday to each and every one of you. May it be a day of real rejoicing. We are blessed to have Brian Gluck doing tech support this evening and making sure that everything is running smoothly. And he's going to share his screen with our Torah reading. I said it was Parashat Yitro, and in Parashat Yitro, we find the 10 Commandments, but it is named for Jethro, for Yitro, who has nothing to do with orange race cars and everything to do with being Moses' father-in-law. And he is the first person Moses tells about what happened in Egypt. And even though he is not Jewish, we have this remarkable scene where Jethro praises God. You can see the translation there. We're going to make the blessing in a moment, and then I'm going to read the text. And for those who are super interested in this text, Eliana Hall, our Director of Lifelong Learning, is going to be leading Torah study tomorrow and is going to be talking about this text and what comes after. And it should be a really fascinating study. That's tomorrow at 9:30, so hopefully you'll join in. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Vayetze Moshe likrat chotno v'yishtachu v'yishak lo v'yishalu ish l're'ehu l'shalom v'yavo'u ha'ohala v'yisaper Moshe lechotno et kol asher asa Adonai leParo u'lemitzrayim al odot Yisrael et kol ha'ta'ala asher batzatam baderech v'yatzilem Adonai v'yichad yitro al kol hatova asher asa Adonai liYisrael asher hitzilo miyad Mitzrayim v'yomer yitro Baruch Adonai asher hitzil etchem miyad Mitzrayim uviyad Paro asher hitzil et ha'am mitachat yad Mitzrayim. And if you want to take a moment to read the translation. And we say thank you, Brian, for running tech and for sharing screen and doing so much more than that. And thank you to our song leaders as well, and to our youth group leaders. When I said they're leading from places near and far, God bless Reese Ratliff has been leading from a parking lot near a stadium in his car. So that tells you what kind of commitment and devotion all these folks have. So we're very, very grateful. Well, it wouldn't be Kabbalat Shabbat if we didn't tell a story. And so here is a quick story about learning, a story about learning Torah, a story about learning the prayers and about learning about God. It was once that there was a little girl studying with her grandfather, and her grandfather happened to also be her teacher. And they were sitting next to one another as grandparents and grandchildren are wont to do. And he was showing her the letters in the prayer book. And they came to two little letters. They almost look like two square dots. They're two yuds, one right next to the other, almost as if they were sitting next to each other. And the grandfather said to the granddaughter, when you see these two letters side by side, that is the monogram of God's name. And whenever you see these two letters, these two little tiny letters sitting next to each other, side by side, you must pronounce the word Adonai in place of God's name in that spot, even though that's not the word that's written there. And the granddaughter looked up at her grandfather and dutifully said the word Adonai. And then they kept reading and they kept going through the letters in the prayer book until she came to the end of a sentence, the end of a line. And you know, sometimes in prayer books, or as we saw in the Torah text, that'll be indicated with almost what looks like a colon, two little squares, two little blocks stacked on top of each other. Well, she saw that and it looked so much like the two yuds next to each other that she thought it was the same thing. And so she said, aha, Adonai. And her grandfather said gently and lovingly, no, that does not mean the name of God. Only when the two letters are sitting nicely side by side, where one looks to the other as an equal. Only then is it the name of God. When you have one on top of the other, above the other, raised higher, as if it were better than, well, then the name of God can't be found there. And so it is for all of us. We can't be sitting next to each other right now, but boy, do we wish we could. And when we know we sit with one another, we do so and acknowledge not that one of us is better than the other, but that we are all equal. And that when we sit together, equal with one another, that is where God's name can be found. That is where we can lift up God's name ourselves, with our actions, with our voices, with our prayer. But when we try to assert that we are better than, we are superior to, that we get to stand above and someone else stands below, How can we find God's name there? So that is our mission this week and every week. As we learn the mitzvot, as we hear the 10 commandments, as we hear all the commandments of the Torah, to learn, to remember, to always stand next to. Even in moments like this where we can't, as if we could be shoulder to shoulder with one another. May it be so. With that, let's turn back to our cantor and let's turn to page 282 as we rise, as we're able to do so, for Aleinu L'Shabeach.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We may be seated. And if we have our prayer books handy, we turn to page 294. We turn to page 294. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. In this moment, we recall those whom we've loved, who we've lost in the last 30 days. And if that is who you are in this moment, someone who has lost a loved one in the period of Shloshim, I invite you to rise at this time. And with them, we recall all those we have lost in the last year. And I invite you to rise if you have lost someone in the last year. And if on this Shabbat you observe a yahrzeit, the anniversary of a loved one's passing, I invite you to rise. And if it is your custom to rise to remember those who have died from this pandemic, those who have died from injustice, those who have died sanctifying the divine name, I invite you to do so as we turn to the words of Mourner's Kaddish, again, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divra chirute v'amlich malchute, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedecho beit Yisrael, Ba'agala ubizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudusha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata v'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shalama rabbah min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We remember Herbert Edelman, Joseph Green, Sharon Caddy, Sid Nightel, Nance Brown, Elaine Waxman, the three of them laid to rest just in the last week. Robert Aronstam, Millie Baylor, Sam Berkowitz, Alvin Ira Blake, Louis Finger, Sidney Gold, Maurice Goldstein, Sadie Goodhart, Rose Hirschman, Harry Jacobs, Esther Jacobs, Lieb Kyle, Lois Elias Krinsky, Pauline Levenberg, Amos Littman, Elise Robin Antonoff Marsh, Elaine Millamad, Elaine Besterfeld Newman, Marvin Nosneski, Hinda Hoffman Pincus, Anna Statniku Porter, Jane Pollock, Matilda Raphael, Pearl Rosen, Albert Rothschild, Sadie Samet, Thomas Seidel, Philip Seitz, Alfred Small, Mary Steinbach. And if you have a name to add of one you are remembering and wish to share that name again on YouTube in the comments, in the chat here on Zoom, I invite you to do so as we say for all of them, Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be a blessing. Amen. And we may be seated. Reflecting on those names and all those we remember this evening, we extend our heartfelt condolences to the families of Sid Nitel, of Nance Brown, and Elaine Waxman, longtime members of this congregation, active members of this congregation. We hope and pray that their memories continue to be an inspiration to you, to the families, and to this community as well. Again, many thanks to our youth group leaders, to our song leaders, Reese and Lauren and Dylan, to our board member, Elena Cole, for leading us tonight as part of our Kabbalat Shabbat service. As I said before, Eliana Hall will be leading Torah study tomorrow at 9:30, talking a little bit more about Jethro. That should be really neat and really fun. And many thanks again to Brian Gluck for doing tech. Lots else going on in our community, as always. Purim is coming up. Yes, it is. We're not going to be able to do a carnival this year, but we got a parade coming up. We're going to have a chance to read the Megillah, hopefully in a fun way. Well, maybe. And Cantor's organizing a spiel for the Friday night of Purim, Shushan Purim, because of course Wilmington was a walled city at the time that Purim took place. So hopefully you will have a chance to be a part of that. We would love to have you for that. But make sure to see what's going on in the orbit, in the weekly newsletter, on our Facebook page, on our website, because we're busy. Even though we can't be physically with each other, we're busy. With that, we're going to conclude our service by turning to Dylan Steinberg once again, who's going to lead us in singing Oseh Shalom as our closing song. And if you're still there on page 294, it's right there at the bottom of the page.
Oseh Shalom Biromah, Oseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'yo Kol Yisrael, Ve'yo Kol Yoshvei Tevel,
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
If you're following along on YouTube, feel free to join us on the Zoneg link on our website.